in economics, there are two basic laws. One of them is the law of demand, and the other one is the law of supply. The law of demand is the basic foundations that I simply try to explain how individuals make decisions every time they go and buy something. And supply try to explain how companies behave when they decide to sell things into the market. As you already know, in the economy or economics is a study of choices that individuals make, how everything works. Okay, so let me hold on for a second. Every time that I do this, I have to make some modifications to be able to come to my other screen. Okay, so I think now we are okay to go. Okay, so let's begin. And again, I'm going to try to simplify this as much as possible. Okay, if we look at a nation, let's assume this is a nation. Inside the nations, we have multiple players. There's a lot of individuals involved in making decisions about what they're going to buy, what are they going to sell, and things like that. So then, actually, what we have is this. In the economy, we have two major players, which is the households and the companies. The companies is the one that actually produce the goods and services. So the companies produce all the goods and services. So in other words, the firms create the total supply in the economy. We call that the supply. But in order to produce products, companies, to produce all the goods and services, they need raw materials. So companies buy raw materials from households, and these raw materials, they are not more than factors of production. So they buy these in the factor market. Remember the factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship ability. So that's what the companies actually buy to be able to produce the things that they need to produce. So when an individual sells those factors of production to the firm, they actually get paid money. Once they get paid this money, these households use this money and they buy goods and services. And they buy products in the product market. So as you can see, this is more a little model that explains how economic activities take place in the economy. We have the households, all the individuals, and we have the companies. The households and the firms are the major players in the economy. They are the major players. The firms produce, the households buy, right? In addition to these two players, we also have other players. For example, we have the government. The government is a major player in the economy because the government gives money to individuals. The government takes money from individuals. The government buys from companies and firms sells to the government. So in other words, there's interactions between government, households, and firms, either by buying, by selling, by regulating. And the government also buys a lot of products out of the economy. So then if I was to say, okay, who are the major players in the economy? Well, the number one players in the economy will be the households. Number two will be the firms. And the third more important player in the economy is the government. Okay, so the question is, what do households want to do in the economy? What do they do? Well, households always want to maximize utility. Utility, it's a terminology that we use simply to explain pleasure or satisfaction or happiness. Now think about this. Me, you, we all have limited budgets. We don't have a lot of money. So then as a result of this, then we have to make choices. So when you go to the store, you decide which product you're going to buy based on a formula or mental calculations that you're making on the price of the item and the satisfaction that you expect to receive. For example, you go to a restaurant and you see a burger for $6 and you see fries for $3 and you say, okay, I'm going to do that. But if you see a burger for $6 and fries for $9, chances are you're not going to buy the fries because you believe that fries, they are not going to give you the satisfaction, that you expect to receive. In other words, it's not worth it, the $9 that you're going to pay. So then when we go to a place, we allocate a budget based on those consumption or those products that we believe are going to give us the best utility. And again, utility is an economic terminology that we use simply to describe happiness or pleasure. Okay? So what do households want to do? Well, households always want to maximize utility. They always want to maximize utility. They want to be happy. Now, what do firms want to do? Well, firms are in the business of trying to make money, so firms always try to maximize profits, right? And they can maximize profit by selling a lot of items or trying to reduce the cost of production so they can have a bigger profit margin. So that's what firms do. And the government, well, the government try to maximize the well-being of society. In other words, we want people to be better off, right? So that's the three main participants in the economy. So as you can see, then individuals go to a market and they make transactions, they buy and they sell. And all the economic transactions is things in which we engage on a voluntary basis. In other words, if I come to you and I point a gun to your head and say, give me all your money or I'm going to blow your head, and you give me your money, that's not an economic transaction, right? In other words, it was not voluntarily. So then to be an economic transaction, you have to voluntarily be engaged in that transaction. So then in a market transaction is a place where things of value exchange. You give something of value, they give you something of value. I go to Walmart, I get the toilet paper that I need, it's valuable to me, and Walmart is willing to give me the toilet paper because they value the money that I'm going to pay them, right? So that's economic transactions. So then at the fundamental basis of economic transactions, we have two laws. One of them is the law of demand. Let me see if I can change this. And the law of supply. Okay, again, these are the two basic laws of economics, the law of demand and the law of supply. So let's begin with the law of demand and how the law of demand actually works. The law of demand is very simple to understand. It simply says this: other things being equal, in other words, if nothing changes, ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus, by the way, let me write it better. Ceteris paribus is a Latin word that simply means if nothing changes, or nothing else changes. So the law of demand says this: if nothing else changes, or ceteris paribus, as the price of an item goes up, the quantity demanded is going to come down. In other words, when price goes up, we buy less quantities. And when the price of an item comes down, then the quantity demanded is going to go up. That's all. In other words, the cheaper the items, the more we're going to buy. The more expensive the item, the less items we're going to buy. So then the law of demand can be explained graphically by a simple model of a line going down. We call this a downward sloping curve. Again, we have prices and we have quantities. Look how it works. For example, if the price for this product is $10, I'm only going to buy 2 units. But if the price dropped to 8, then I'm probably going to buy 3. And if it drops to 7, I'm probably going to buy 4, and so on. So as you can see, the higher the price, the less units we buy. As the price decreases, then we buy more units. And that's how the law of demand behaves. Let's assume that this is you. You are now behaving like this. So then at a price of 8, you are buying 3 units. At a price of 8, you buy in 3 units. Now the store decides to increase the price of this item, and now the price is going to be, let's say, $12. Well, as you can see, because the price is higher, now you're going to buy less quantities. You're going to buy less quantities. So then you're going to move from this point right here into this point right here. You're going to move from point A into point B, and now you're going to buy only 2 units. So as you can see, when the price goes up, you create a movement on your same demand. Your demand is your ability at this point, your willingness to buy an item, right? So then when the price goes up, you buy less quantities. Remember this is very important for you to know. It's going to be on the exam. I'm going to ask you about 6 or 7 questions on this very simple concept. What happens when the price of an item changes? And the answer is the quantities demand will change. Okay, so in other words, the quantity demanded changes, the quantity what changes. not the demand. So if I was to tell you this, okay, this is a typical college student, this is the price, this is the quantity, at a price of $10, a college student, let's say, is consuming 2 pizzas per week. If I were to tell you, okay, Pizza Hut decide to run a sale on pizzas, and they decrease the price to $5. And the question is, what's going to happen to the demand for pizzas if Pizza Hut decide to decrease the price to $5? The right answer is this: nothing is going to happen to the demand. When the price changed from 10 to 5, what's going to change is the quantities. So now the quantity demanded is going to change, right? So in other words, we move from the original point of A into point B, which is simply means now we buy more quantities because the product is cheaper. Okay, so now Pizza Hut has been selling these pizzas now for $5 for a long time, and you're buying 3 pizzas a week. Now overnight they decide to change the price, and now they're going to charge $12 for a large pizza. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to respond to that changing price by buying less quantities, right? So now as a result of this, then you're going to buy now only 1 unit, okay? So then changes in prices, changes quantities. In this case, it will change the quantity demanded. Now, there are other things that can change your demand. Let me give you an example. Let's assume that this is you at this point. You are buying at a price of 10, you are buying now 2 pizzas. Now, why are you buying 2 pizzas? Well, because you're a college student, you don't have a lot of money, right? And pizza is cheap, so you decide to go with pizza. Well, now let's see what happened. For example, if your income changes. Now, what happens if your income changes? Well, if your income changes, now you can afford to buy more of everything. In this case, because you like pizza, so now you're going to buy more pizza, right? Your demand is going to change from this of 1 to this of 2, simply because now you have a higher income. Okay, so now you are here. So now because you have more income, now you are buying, 4 pizzas. So as you can see, there are things that can change the demand, or the factors that can shift the demand. And one of them is a change in income. So your income changes, your demand will change. Now let's assume that that's where you are now, because you have higher income and you're buying 4 pizzas, right? So now all of a sudden, you lost your job. Well, if you lose your job now, you're not going to be able to afford 4 pizzas. So your demand will decrease simply because you have no longer the same income, and your demand will shift to the left. So now at a price of 10, you're going to buy only 2 pizzas. So as you can see, a change in income shifts the line to the left or to the right, okay? Something else that can change the demand curve is, for example, expectations. Okay, let's assume again that this is you, and you're buying 2 pizzas at a price of $10, and you expect, somebody told you that tomorrow the price of pizza is going to drop to $3. So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to postpone your consumption today because you expect that the price is going to be cheaper tomorrow. So then, on this case, as a result of your expectations, your demand for pizza is going to decrease simply because you expect that it will be better to buy this pizza tomorrow. On the other hand, let's assume that this is another product that you can store. For example, let's say this is gasoline, and we are paying $1.69 a gallon, and let's say you're buying 20 gallons, okay? You're buying 20 gallons of gasoline at a price of $1.69. And now you expect that as a result of this, let's go back to work, the price of gasoline is going to go to $4. I mean, somebody told you that the price of gasoline is going to, there was a bomb in Saudi Arabia and one of the oil refineries, or a catastrophic situation in one of the oil fields. There's going to be a shortage of gasoline. So you expect the price of gasoline is going to triple. What do? Well, all you do, you go to the gasoline station and you fill up your tank today. So your demand increase simply based on your expectation of what you think is going to happen. Okay? Those things can change your demand. Something else that can change your demand is your taste or a change in taste. Again, let's assume that you're buying a specific product. Let me change the example. Let's say you're buying, I don't know, at a price of $125, you're buying, let's say, this is soft drinks. Now you're buying, let's say, 2 soft drinks per week. So you're buying 2 Cokes or 2 Dr. Peppers, whatever you drink, right? So this is you at $125. But now you went to the doctor and the doctor did your medical examination and said, hey, you are very close to develop diabetes as a result of you drinking 2 Cokes every single day. So then as a result of your fear or your expectation about what can happen, then your taste can change. And it's okay, so I'm going to stop drinking soft drinks and I'm going to go with fruit juices, or I'm going to go with water. Or you just simply no longer like this product, right? If you no longer like this product, then your demand is going to shift to the left. Or how about if you develop a taste for something and for some reason you really like it? So if you develop a positive taste for something, your demand will go up even if the price do not change, simply because you just like this product, more, right? What else can change the demand curve? Well, it is a change in the price of other products. It is a change in the price of other products that can also change your demand. Let me explain how it works. Let me erase this and we begin. Okay, let's assume that this is you. This is your demand for 2 different products, something that you like, burgers and pizza. Okay, at a price of $8 for a pizza, let's say that you're buying 2 pizzas every week, and at a price of $3.99 a cheeseburger, you're also buying 2 cheeseburgers. Okay, so this is you. This is pizza, and this is burgers. So now, the burgers that you really like, the store decides to lower the price, and now the burgers are going to be $1.99. So if the price of burgers decrease to $1.99, what's going to happen to your demand for burgers? If the price of burgers comes down, what's going to happen to your demand for burgers?
Your quantity demanded will go up.
Exactly. The answer is nothing will happen to your demand, only to your quantity demanded. In other words, you're going to buy more quantities of burgers because they're cheaper. So now you're going to buy 4 burgers instead of 2, right? But now, because you are eating burgers, you no longer need the pizza. See, the price of pizza has not changed. The price of pizza has not changed. But what's going to change is your consumption of pizza, because now you are buying burgers. So the whole demand for pizza will decrease, and now you're only going to buy 1 instead of 2. So as you can see then, the demand for a product right here was impacted as a result of a change in the price of another product, right? For example, let's assume that, think about that. Well, let me ask you, all of you girls, once you become I don't know, an older individual and you get married and you're going to start having children, what kind of automobile are you going to be driving? Are you going to be driving a SUV or a minivan? Anybody?
I'm not having kids, so I'm going to have me a really nice car.
Okay, so you're going to have a sports car because your plans is not to have any children. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Any of you planning to have children? That's a normal instinct. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, and if you ask most females, what do you want to drive? You know, once you become a mother, most of them say, well, I don't want to drive a minivan, just simply because I don't want to be identified as a soccer mom, right? I'll prefer to drive a SUV. Well, why is it that most mothers drive minivans? I'm asking. Why?
They have kids.
Because they have kids. Yeah, but you can buy a big SUV and you can put kids on an SUV. What would be the answer? What do you think?
Are minivans sometimes cheaper?
Because you can buy a minivan for half the price of an SUV. You can buy a fully loaded a fully loaded minivan for about $28,000. With $28,000, you don't buy not even an entry-level SUV. In an SUV, now they're going for $60, $70, $80, $100,000. Right? So then if the manufacturers of SUV decide to give a dramatic decrease in the prices, there will be a shift in the consumption of SUVs because that's really what I wanted. And now that the price is lower, I can afford it. And as a result of this, then the demand for, minivans will decrease. Okay. Now, what else can change the demand curve? Well, the next thing that can change the demand curve is if there's an increase or a change in the number of buyers. You see, if there's a change in the number of buyers, that can change the demand. For example, think about here in Cleveland. All of you are back home, and on the fall, some of you are going to come back hoping that the school will be running. I pray that that will be the case. And a lot of you are going to be living in some of the rental units, that the community rents. I'm not talking about Lee housing, I'm talking about apartments. So during the fall, when more students come back to Lee, what happened to rental units? The demand for rental units increase. I mean, if you're here in Cleveland, just drive around town and you begin to see that they are beginning to see a lot of for rent signs. A lot of for rent signs because about 1,000 students rent apartments at Lee. I'm sorry, about 1,000 students rent apartments in the community. And they are no longer here. So as a result of this, then a lot of people have now empty apartments. So then the number of buyers can actually impact the demand. Okay, any questions? Any questions? So again, it's very simple. So let's go ahead and review what we have just learned. Okay. We already told you that in the economy, we have three major participants. We have the consumers, we have the business, and we have the governments. Consumers always want to maximize utility. Businesses want to maximize profits. And the government want to maximize the general welfare of society. Okay? So, because not every nation can produce everything that consumers want, nations have no choice, and nations, in some cases, they have to trade with other nations. So then we can say that when we're looking at the major participants in the economy, is the households, the firms, the government, and also international players. Okay, so we can put it like this. And this is what I was trying to tell you. Okay, these are the major players in the economy. We have the consumers and we have the firms. The firms produce all goods and services. To produce goods and services, the companies have to buy factors of production. The consumers, households, are the owners of the factors of productions. They sell these factors of productions, then they get the money and they buy products. Right? That's on a closed economy. In other words, we are only dealing with people in our nation. But the reality is that we need to buy products from other nations, and other nations buy from us. So, the situation is that other international participants, they buy products from us, we sell products to them, And we also buy factors of production from other nations, and other nations buy factors of production from us. You know, we hire people from other nations, we buy raw materials from other nations, and other nations do the same thing with us. So then if you were to say, or the answer to the following question is this. If I was to ask you, who are the major participants on an open economy? Then the answer will be consumers, companies, the government, and international players or international participants. On a closed economy, it's only consumers, companies, and the government. Again, there are very few nations that the economy is totally closed. They still have to deal with other nations. Even North Korea. With who do they trade? North Korea. With China. You know, North Korea buys and sells things from China. So even there's no such thing as a closed economy. Okay? So that's what we discuss. So then we say that we go into a market and we do exchanges. So then a market exists wherever an exchange actually takes place. And that's when we exchange something of value, okay? And again, in the market, there are two conflicting forces taking place. One is the consumers and one is the producers. Again, you have to understand that producers want to maximize profits. So then the higher the price, the higher the number of units they are willing to sell to you, right? The consumers, on the other hand, they want to maximize the utility, so they want to pay as little as possible. So then when the price of an item goes up, they buy less, and when the price comes down, they buy more, okay? So then ceteris paribus, it simply means that we're going to make the assumption that nothing else changes. And let me explain why this is important for you to understand. There are two products that you like, pizza and burgers. If the price of burgers comes down, what are you going to do? Someone, tell me.
Buy more burgers.
Yeah, you're gonna buy more quantities of burgers, and the demand for pizza is going to what? It's going to decrease, right? Because now you're buying both items. But what will happen if both products, burgers and pizza, if the price goes down? And the answer is, I have no idea. Because you are in violation of the ceteris paribus. Because if both products come down, I don't know which one I'm going to buy, or there's no way I can predict or tell you, I know this was gonna happen. I mean, there's a high probability that you're going to buy more or at least one of them. But the question is, are you going to buy more of both? And the answer is, I don't know. Because the law of demand only tells you what will happen if the price of one item changes and nothing else. Okay? So that's what we mean by ceteris paribus. So then the law of demand says this, and again, we already discussed it. In a given time period, the quantity demanded of a good increase as the price decreases, right? And vice versa. When the price goes up, we buy less. So then there's an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. And the demand can be explained very simple by a downward sloping curve that looks something like this, right? And I already gave you the explanation. For example, in this case, if the price is 50, you will only buy 1 unit. But when the price dropped to 25, then you increase your quantity demanded, and now you're going to buy 9 units. If the price dropped to 10, then you buy more units, now you buy 20 units. So then changes in prices make movements on the same line. And those movements on the same line are called changes in quantities, right? There are other factors that can shift the demand. You know, I already gave you the list. Taste, income, expectations, you know, prices or changes in prices of other products, right? There are different types of products. There are products that they go together, they complement, or there are products that they substitute. You buy one or the other. For example, Coca-Cola and Dr. Pepper. To me, they're substitutes. It doesn't really matter. No, I'm going to buy the cheapest one. Now, complementary products, they are products that they go together. Burgers and fries. In most cases, when you buy burgers, you buy more fries. Or fries and ketchup, in your case. Right? So again, these are complementary products. So changes in prices of different products can affect the demand. And then the last thing that I told you is also the number of buyers can actually change the demand for a product. Okay? So when demand increases, the line moves to the right. And when demand decreases, it shifts to the left. So then changes in quantity of movements in the same curve. A change in demand is actually a shift of the demand curve. Okay. Price or change in price will never change the demand. If I tell you what will happen to the demand for pizza if the price of pizza come down, the answer is nothing will happen to the demand for pizza. If the price of pizza comes down, the only thing that will change is the quantity demanded. See? What are the factors that can change the demand? Taste, income, expectations, number of buyers, and so on. Right? But price will not change, right? The demand. So then movements on the same line is the result of changes in prices, and shifts on the line is as a result of other factors: taste, income, expectation, number of buyers, changing the price of other products. Okay? So now we have already finished the law of demand, and now we're going to begin with the law of supply. Okay? So let's go ahead and stop, guys, and have a 10-minute break. So we will begin the class, let's say at 11:03. Okay? You go out and feed your cat, and I'll see you in 10 minutes, 11:03. Recording again. Okay, so we have learned how consumers behave with changes in prices. So now we're going to try to understand how do companies behave to changes in prices. We're going to try to understand the law of supply. Okay, so the law of supply is very simple to understand. It simply says this: other things being equal, law of supply. Other things being equal, as the price of an item goes up, the quantity supply goes up, and as the price of an item comes down, the quantity supply comes down. So as you can see, on this case, we have a direct relationship. The higher the price, the higher the incentive that the producers have to produce more, because now they're going to be able to make more money. But when the price comes down, then producers don't want to sell you units. So then the law of supply can be represented graphically by an upward sloping curve. So now this is the law of supply. We have price and we have quantities. So look at this. If you only want to pay me $2, I can only sell you 10 units. But if you pay me $4, then I'll be willing to sell you, let's say, 15 units. And you pay me $5, then I can probably sell you 20 units. And if you pay me $6, I even sell you my grandmother. You know? So as you can see, the higher the price, the more we are willing to sell. And it makes a lot of sense. I mean, why would you do that? Well, because the higher the price, the more money I'm going to be able to make. The higher the price, I'll be able to cover the cost of production. The higher the price, the higher the incentives that I have to produce more because of the profit margin that I'm going to be able to make, and so on and so on and so on. So then, as you can see, every time the price changes, it changes the quantity demanded. We already know that, right? Prices changes quantity demanded, but we also need to understand that prices also changes delta quantity supply. So then change in price change the quantity supply. For example, this is you. If you want to pay me $4, I'm only going to sell you 15 units. But if the price drop or increase to $6 from 4 to 6, then you're going to be willing to increase your productivity from 15 to 30 units. So as you can see, what happened is you change your output all the way to this level right here. So now at a price of 6, you're gonna be willing to sell 30 units. So as you can see, then changes in prices, changes the quantities we are willing to sell. You are right here, you are happy, you're making money, you're selling 30 units, and for some reason the price decreased dramatically. Let's assume that other individuals came to compete against you, and now you're competing against other producers. So then the price decreases, and the price decreased, you are right here now, and the price decreased to $2. Well, at $2, you're not gonna be able to make enough money, so you immediately decrease your output, and now you're only going to be willing to sell 2 units. So as you can see, then changes in prices changes the quantities. It changes the quantity demanded, and also changes the quantity supply, okay? Now, there are other factors that can change the supply curve. Again, this is the supply, this is price, this is quantity. Let's say at a price of 10, you're providing 20 units. Now, there are other things that can change the supply. For example, number one, a change in technology. If there's a change in technology, now you'll be able to buy a new machine, and this new machine is going to help you to be more productive, and now you're going to be able to sell more units even if the price is the same. So your supply can shift as a result of the new machine that now you're going to be able to implement, and now you're going to increase your output from supplier 1 to supplier 2 simply because there was a change in technology. Now think about this. How about if the technology is destroyed? Think about this. When nations go into war, what is the first thing that we destroy from the enemy, or we try to destroy from the enemy? Anybody? We always try to destroy the infrastructure, the bridges, the highways, and the companies. Now, why do we want to destroy the companies? Well, because by destroying the companies, these companies cannot be used in the production of military equipment. So then we destroy the technology or the capital available. So then these nations are not going to be able to produce, tanks or planes or missiles, and the supply of that is going to decrease simply because we have destroyed the technology. So then changes in technology can affect the supply curve. Okay, another thing that can change the supply curve, number two, is changes in factor cost. Factor cost is the cost of inputs, Okay, for example, let's assume that this is you. At this point, you are producing 20 items at a price of 10. You're making, I don't know, gadgets, widgets, and you're making these widgets out of plastic. So now there's an increase in the price of plastic, the factor that you use. And the price of plastic increased tenfold. So as a result of the factor cost increase in price, now you're not going to be able to make as many units as before. So you're going to have a dramatic decrease in the supply simply because now the raw material increased dramatically. Right? On the other hand, if the price of the raw material now is cheaper, then you will be able to produce more simply because it's cheaper for you. Okay? So again, this is factors that can change the supply curve. Another factor that can change the supply curve is, for example, if there's a changes in taxes or subsidies. If the government increases taxes or decreases taxes, or if the government gives a tax breaks to a company, then the supply curve from that company can be affected. Think about this. Let's say this is your company. You are producing 20 units at a price of 10, and now the government is going to impose a production tax of $3 per item you make. So then your profits are going to decrease. So now your supply is going to decrease simply because now you have to pay taxes on that production. On the other hand, how about if the government decides to give you a credit? Right? If the government decides to give you credit, then the supply will increase to the right because now you have an incentive to produce, as a result of these subsidies. Think about, for example, what is happening now with this coronavirus. A couple of weeks ago, we thought we were going to run out of ventilators, right? And the president of the United States decided to create the Emergency Act or activate the Emergency Act and actually force some companies to create ventilators. Right? He actually forced Ford that make automobiles to make ventilators. Right? Well, Ford had to revamp the whole manufacturing plant, but the government decided to give them a subsidy, decided to buy the ventilators at 3 times, the normal price. So the government was subsidizing this production. So then as a result of this, then the amount of ventilators increased dramatically in the market simply because the government was subsidizing this production or was actually paying a price that was not actually the market price, but it was being subsidized. Think about farmers. I mean, we subsidize farmers. We give them farmers money for producing, right? That's why we have an abundance of corn, because farmers, can sell the product at the market price, and then the government gives them an additional credit for every ton of corn that they sell. So then production can increase to the right. Something else that can change the supply curve will be, for example, expectations. Okay, expectations. Let's assume that this is you, right? And you're selling 20 units at a price of 10. Now your expectation changes and you believe that this coming Christmas, people are going to go crazy for this toy that you're making. Now we are now in November, or we are now in September, and now you know that in 3 more months, people are going to go crazy for this toy that you're making. So based on your expectations that you're going to sell a lot during Christmas, you increase your production at the plant because now you expect that people are going to buy your product, right? On the other hand, if you expect that nobody's going to buy your product because this coronavirus and people are afraid of buying, then some companies decrease the production simply because of the expectations of what they think the near future is going to be. And that's exactly what is happening today in our nation. A lot of companies, instead of ramping production, they're actually decreasing the output. And just this morning, we have an additional number that came out in people that claim unemployment. And this week alone, we're only on Thursday, we have an additional 3 million people that claim unemployment. I mean, this is sad, guys. This is serious. This is serious. I don't know if you have been following the news and how it works, but look at this. 40% of all the people that have lost their jobs, which now is close to 40 million people, are people that make less than $40,000 a year. Right? So it simply means that most of the people that have lost their jobs are people that are in the low income category. And now we have another 3 million people. What are we going to do with this? As you already know, the Congress is trying to pass another relief bill. As a matter of fact, they're going to vote on it tomorrow, on Friday. Right? They want to go ahead and give individuals $100 per individual. Right? And also now, on the last relief, they were only giving $500 per child. Now they're going to do $1,200 for everyone. You got, up to 3 dependents. So a family with more than 3 children or 3 children will get a check for $6,000. We don't know if this is going to be approved, but they are voting on it tomorrow. On the meantime, companies still afraid that they're not going to be able to sell the products. And I mean, they have a reason to be afraid. I mean, you have been following the news for the first time in our nations. Americans are afraid, really afraid, and savings are beginning to increase. Just in the month of March, April, and May, savings have increased by 13%. Individuals are increasing their savings. On the average, by the way, guys, on the average, Americans only save 2% of what they make. On the average. For every $100 they make, they only save $2. But now, as a result of this fear, this is the new number. Right? In other words, it has dramatically increased because people say, I don't know if I'm going to have my job. And they have a reason to fear because companies are decreasing production simply because people are not buying. So then expectations can shift the supply curve. And the last factor that can change the supply curve is the number of sellers. The number of sellers. If there are more sellers in the market, supply is going to go to the right. right? If there are less sellers in the market, supply is going to shift to the left. For example, what's going to happen to the supply of air travel in the near future? And this is my speculation or my expectations or my forecast. I believe that some small regional airlines are going to go out of business. So then 6 months from now, we are not going to be able to fly to certain cities because there's not going to be no planes going to those cities. So then the supply is going to decrease. So then after the economy bounces again and people begin to travel, probably the cost of air travel is going to increase dramatically, right? Because there will be less flights available. At this point, airlines have lost about 95% of their business. 95% of their business has been lost by airlines. So there's no way you can survive with 5%, of your previous customers stay in business. So airlines are suffering. Some of them are going to go out of business. The supply is going to decrease dramatically. And then once those companies come back, it's going to take a couple of years before these companies will be able to actually begin to make some profits. But in the meantime, my expectations or my forecast is that I believe air travel is going to go higher by next year. Okay, so that's supply and demand. So as you can see, then let's understand what happened when we put both of these two forces together, and that simply explains how prices are determined. For example, this is the demand for a specific product, and this is the supply for a specific product, right? So then where supply and demand intersects, that's going to determine the equilibrium price. So that's the price, and this is the quantity. Let's say the price is going to be 20, and we are going to buy 100 units. Now look what happened at a price of, let's say, 25. See, when the price jumped from 10 to 25, what's the first thing that consumers are going to do? When the price jumped to 25, the first thing the consumers are going to do, consumers are going to buy a little bit less. Remember, when the price goes up, quantity demanded comes down. And producers are going to increase productivity a little bit more. So then at a price of 25, the economy is in disequilibrium. The aggregate supply is actually got higher than the aggregate demand, which simply means that we only buying 80 units because the price is too high, but companies are willing to sell you 120 units. So here we have a situation in which we have a surplus. We have an excess supply. So higher prices, higher than equilibrium, create surpluses. And the reason again is because higher prices creates an incentive for companies to make more. So we have a surplus. Well, now what will happen if the price dropped to, let's say, $10? Well, when the price dropped to $10, consumers say, now I want to buy more units, right? So at a price of $10, automatically consumers want to buy more units. So then the demand increase, let's say, to 120. But producers say, hey, I was selling my product for 20. Now you want me to sell it for 10. There's no way I can make no money. So I'm only going to produce 50. So as you can see, at a price of 10, now we have a different situation. And the situation is that the demand is larger than the supply. So we have a shortage. So then the question is, so how the market reacts or how the market adjusts to these changes? Well, think about this. If we have a surplus, that means that inventories are being accumulated, right? So if you're a owner of a company and you want to get rid of your inventories, what's the first thing you will have to do? You lower the prices. And when you lower the prices, when you begin to lower the prices, consumers begin to buy a little bit more and you begin to make a little bit less, and boom, bang, we go back into equilibrium. On the other hand, if everybody wants to buy your product, then you realize that, hey, look, I'm making 50 units, but there's 120 units that people want to buy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to increase the price. So producers begin to increase the price and they begin to make a little bit more, and individuals begin to buy a little bit less. So as you can see, then equilibrium only takes place where supply and demand intersects. So then the question is, what determines the price of an item? Well, the price of an item is determined by the forces of the market, the supply and the demand. Why is a Rolex watch has a price of $60,000? I mean, a Rolex watch, you can buy one some made out of gold, but you can buy a stainless steel Rolex watch for $60,000. Or you can buy a Timex watch, also made out of stainless steel, for $39. Both of the watches are made with the same material. So why is it that one is 60,000 and the other one is 39,000? Well, very simple. Because for this one that is 60,000, somebody is willing to pay 60,000. Remember, the consumers determine the demand, how much they are willing to pay. Why is this only $39? Well, because that's what consumers want to pay. They don't want to pay more than $39. So then the price of an item is not determined by who makes the product, how the product is made. It's not determined by the inputs that you use in the production. It's not determined by how long does it took you to make it. You know, it's just by how much we're willing to pay. Right? Here in my house, I have I don't know if well, let me share this with you. I'm going to. Okay, you are now in my. Oh man, you're seeing two of me. That's scary. Okay. Let me. Okay, now you only see one of me. Well, let me walk around the house for a second, guys. I want to show you something. It's part of the lake. It's part of the lake. By the way, that's my practice while I'm working out of the office. Okay.
Dr. Hasso, you're muted on the iPad.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, my apologies. Okay. This is a collection of animals that I collect. As you can see, they actually, let me go and turn off the noise on the other computer because I'm getting a lot of echo, okay? So I'll be right back. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay. I still hear the echo on the other computer. Okay, these animals right here. Jessica, can you please lower the volume in my other computer? It's part of the class, guys. They are made of natural rocks. And I love birds. And that's not only. Okay. I have also another collection of birds, and those are handmade, and some of them are of what's called exotic rocks. Now, when I buy these, I buy them in South America, and I negotiate prices, and I have never paid more than $400 for a bird. Here in the United States, you have to probably pay a couple of $1,000, but I collect these. Now, I have another one that is the one that I want to use for my example. Look at this one right here. This bird right here is not made out of rock. It's the only exception that I have. And this bird right here is actually hand carved. It's actually hand carved, made out of a trunk of a rose tree. Okay, so let me come back and I'll explain a little bit about that. Again, it's part of the economics and how prices are determined. So you already saw. What was that? According to my wife, right here, they said that you're laughing.
That's how you do your volume.
Okay, thank you for telling me how to do my volume. Okay, so let me come back right here. And let me come back right here. Okay. Hold on for a second. Okay. I'm trying to teach you and give you a real life example. Okay, I was trying to teach you and give you a real life example of how prices are determined. Okay, so I told you that I collect birds. I have traveled all over the world. In every country that I go, I try to buy one bird. I mean, I look, and you know, and this is something that I have been doing for many years. I like animals. You can see here. And this is one of my trips to Africa, and you know, and other animals that I have got for places that I have traveled. So, to me, the price of the item, like I told you, I'm a professor of economics. The price of an item is not determined. Are you hearing me? So why are you laughing, guys? Melody, tell me why you're laughing, Melody.
I'm sorry. I just thought it was so funny. You have a really nice house, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was like watching you like having a vlog or something. And I really enjoyed it. It was so funny. That was
Okay,
good.
I'll give you the blog of my house. I mean, no.
Yeah, you should.
My wife say no now. I'll do it another time. My wife is working next door, so okay. This is what I was trying to tell you. The price of the item is not determined by who makes the item or how long did it take to make the item. And again, remember that I told you that in the collection of animals that I have one that is actually made out of wood. That bird, I actually purchased it in the island of Chiloé in Chile. Chiloé is like going south in South America, almost close to Antarctica, about 200 miles from Antarctica, small island of Chile, the island of Chiloé. And I was there and I was working with a couple of students, one of my cross-cultural experience trips. And I went to a small store and they have this bird, beautiful bird. And right away, you know, it attracted me. I went inside and I was surprised that it was actually made out of wood. So I begin to try to see if I can negotiate a price with this guy. And I say, you know, we talk in Spanish, oh, me gusta este pájaro, ¿cuánto estás pidiendo? You know, how much you asking for this? And the guy look at me and he say, dame 400, give me 400. You know, I look at him and I say, 80, I give you 80. Now, the guy was asking 400 and I say, I'll give you 80. The guy look at me and say, what in the blankety is wrong with you? I mean, hijo de, and he told me, son of a, you know, why are you insulting me? And, I mean, I was totally surprised. I said, what do you mean I'm insulting you? He said, yes, you're insulting me. I'm asking $400 for this item and you want to offer me $80? I mean, are you crazy? And I said, no, I'm not crazy. I said, I'm just giving you an offer. You simply say, yes, I like it. No, I don't want it. Of course I don't want it, you son of a blah, 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 blah. You stupid Mexican. What do you think you are? And I mean, I was really offended. I was surprised. And I said, but how am I offending you? I said, and he said, do you know who I am? I said, no, I have no idea who you are. Well, I teach art, blah, blah, blah. He gave me about some titles that he has. He said, do you know how long did it took me to make this bird? And I said, well, no, I don't know how long did it took you to make this bird. He said, it took me 3 weeks, every single day for 3 weeks. And you want to give me $80 for this? $20 for every week of work or $25? What's wrong with you? And I mean, he continued reminding me about my mother and my grandmother. No, by this point, I was already upset. And I say, wow, did it took you 3 weeks to do this bird? I said, yeah, 3 weeks. And you want to give me $80? I said, oh, wow. Did it took you 3 weeks because you are slow or because you are stupid? Get out of my store, you stupid Mexican. I mean, he kicked me out of the store. And I went out of the store. Now, this guy wanted for me to pay him $400 because it took him 3 weeks to make the bird. I went to a couple of stores and I end up in another store and they have a bird that was very similar to that bird, which is the one that I showed you. And I went inside and the guy said, oh, I did this, blah, blah, blah. And say, if you give me, $220, it's yours. So I begin to negotiate with him, not to make the story long. I end up buying it for $60. I paid $60 for the bird. So what did I did? I got my bird, I went to the store where the other guy and knocked on the window. Hey, $60 en la otra tienda. Hey, I paid $60 in the other store. You get out of my, and he kicked me out of the window of his store. So, and I put this bird there to remind me the concept of what I teach. That the price of the item is not determined by who made it or, how long did it take you to make it. It's by how much we're willing to pay. I mean, have you known about some individuals that draw what's called those abstract pictures and they get a piece of paper and they make 2 lines. Okay, $20,000. And they action something for $1 million for 2 lines like this. I mean, who in their right mind? I mean, you have to be retarded to pay $100,000 for 2 strokes on a canvas. But some people have done that. Literally pay $100,000 for 2 strokes made by a famous individual. Why? Why is that 2 strokes on a canvas made by a special individual is worth $100,000? And the answer is because what? Because somebody is willing to pay. So then the price of everything, guys, the price of everything is determined by how much people are willing to pay. I mean, what is the cost of tuition at the university? What is it, $11,000 a year, room and board? 11,000? How much is it per semester? 10,000? What is it? Room and board and tuition. Man, you must be really wealthy. You don't even know how much you're paying for your school. Yeah, just charge it to me.
I want to say it's somewhere around 18 to 20,000 per semester.
Per semester?
I think so. Maybe a little lower.
I don't think so. Anybody? Any of you know how much you're paying for your
I
education?
think it's like 12,000 a
It's
semester.
about 12,000. Yeah, it's something like, it's about 12. I think it's about 24, 25 per year, right? And again, it doesn't include all the other expenses. Now, why is the education at Lee University $25,000 and the university at the community colleges back where you live can be free? Why do you choose to come and spend $25,000 when you can go to your community college and get it for free? Because you have assigned a value to the education you're getting from Lee University that is worth $25,000. I mean, why is somebody willing to pay MIT or London School of Economics, $100,000 a year in tuition? Because they have value. They say it's worth $100,000. Is the education really that different, really that good? And in many cases, it's not the education that you receive, but it's the contacts that you're going to make. You're going to rub elbows with the children of multimillionaires that own multi-companies. And you create that friendship and you're going to have a job because your friend, your roommate, his father is the owner or the CEO of this multinational corporation, right? So, I mean, that's the reason why. It's not only the education, but it's the other things that you get. So then the price of everything that we buy in the economy now, is determined by the forces of supply and demand. Okay? Questions? So now let's come back to the conclusion of this chapter. Okay? So this is the supply and the demand of this specific product. At a price of 20, we're buying 100 units. Again, price and quantity. Now, what happened to price, for example, if more producers come into town? Remember, what happened to supply if the number of sellers increases? Well, the supply is going to increase. So now there are more sellers coming into this community. The supply increases, And as you can see, now we go into a new equilibrium. This line disappeared. This line is no longer here because it's shifted. So now we're going to have a lower price, right? So now, because we have a lower price, then people are going to buy more. But what happened, for example, or what's going to happen to the producers, for example, now with the coronavirus of, let's just talk about local restaurants. Some local restaurants in your community are going to go out of business. Some of them have already gone out of business. A couple of barber shops, a couple of beauty salons have already gone out of business. So if the supply for these producers decreases, the prices is going to go up. See, so as you can see, that changes in supply and demand affect prices. Now, what happens if the demand for a product increases? Everybody wants to buy this product. Well, the demand is going to what? It's going to go up. And the price is going to go up. On the other hand, how about if nobody likes this product anymore? Can you think of a product that people are no longer buying? Can any of you think of a product that people are no longer buying? DVD players, CD players. I mean, people are not using any longer I don't think people buy movies anymore, right? They just download it from one of these providers, Netflix or Hulu or Disney, whatever the case may be, right? So as a result of this, then those DVD players, anybody know what's the price of a DVD player?
I think
Go to Walmart. Go ahead, Ashley.
I think it's around 50 or lower.
Yes, yes.
Could be like Blu-rays as well. I'm not really sure. It's been a
Yes. You can buy one for about $35. A DVD player for about $35 or a CD player. You know how much I paid for my first one? Yes, $1,200 when they first came out. I mean, it was a big thing, a new technology, right? But now through times, the technology has become outdated and people no longer buy that. I mean, think about flat screen TVs, guys. I mean, how much you pay for a flat screen TV?
like $250.
About $250. I have two TVs that I purchased at two different times, made by the same manufacturer. It's a 3-year difference. And one of them cost me $1,000. And the second time that I purchased, it cost me $259. Right? And the reason simply because this product is outdated. It's already not the latest technology. It's not I don't know what they put on TVs. So the prices decreases because supply or demand decreases. So we already know what will happen. So let me ask you a couple of questions. If this is the present price for this product and people are demanding 100 units, what's going to happen to price if supply decreases? If supply decreases, it goes this way, prices are going to go up. If supply increases, prices are going to come down. Look, let me give you a real, true situation, experience of what happened when supply changes. In 1979, I came to Lee as a student. That was, 41 years ago? Yeah, 41 years ago, I was a 19-year-old, very good-looking guy. And I was about 6 foot tall, blue eyes. I don't know what happened in the last 41 years, but 41 years ago, I was a very good-looking guy. And I used to work for Pizza Hut, and I used to be the weekend manager. Right? And I was working in high school for about 3 years. I started working in my sophomore year in high school, all the way to my senior in high school. And then when I came to Lee in 1979, I asked for a transfer to come and work here at a local Pizza Hut in town. In 1979, the price of a large pepperoni pizza was $19.99. Right? Very expensive. People used to go to Pizza Hut only on special occasions. I know that you probably don't remember this. I mean, you're only like 18, so it's definitely you don't know this. But Pizza Hut used to be a fancy restaurant in which they used to have like a little flags in the middle of the chair or the table, and you raise the flag when you wanted the waiter to come and serve you the food or whatever the case may be. People used to come and only eat one slice of pizza and get some salad, right? So then the franchise was making a lot of profits. In 1979, the cost of production of a large pepperoni pizza, including labor, was $167. It cost us $167 to make the pizza. We were selling it for $19.99. The dream of every individual was to own a franchise of Pizza Hut. Forget about McDonald's, forget about Wendy's, forget about Burger King. Pizza Hut is where the dough is. Get the joke, right? And that's where the dough is, and everybody wanted to buy a franchise. Well, the franchise were very expensive. Some people decide to develop their own stores. So then Pizza Hut, then came Domino's, right? And Godfather Pizza, and Papa John, and Mama John, and Uncle John. You know, throughout the last 40 years now, because the supply of pizza has increased, now you can buy a large pepperoni pizza for $5, and it's hot and ready. You don't have to wait. So as you can see, the supply changes prices, right? So what happened in the market when the government tried to intervene and put a price floor or a price ceiling? Look at this. If the price is $20 and the government comes and say, you know, that price is too high, poor people cannot afford this product, we're going to put a price ceiling of $10. $10 is the maximum you can sell this product. Look what happened at $10. At $10, people say, oh, now it's cheaper, I'm going to buy it. Remember, before they were buying 100 units. Now more people want to buy this product because it's cheaper, but producers are going to make less because now they are not making any money. So then a price ceiling creates a shortage. You know, people are not going to be able to find what they want because nobody's going to sell them at that price. Because companies are not going to be willing to sell it at that specific price. Now, what happens if we put a price ceiling? I'm sorry, a price floor. This is the price ceiling. Ceiling is the highest you can go, and a price floor is the minimum. Let's say that the producers complain, and the producers say, you know, I'm not making enough money, and the government trying to intervene and say, okay, $25 is what this product is supposed to be sold in the market. Well, look what happened at $25. Producers say, oh, now I can make money. They increase productivity. The consumers begin to buy less, and now we have a surplus. And again, this is how the market works. So now let me go ahead and conclude this chapter by going over the slides that we're discussing. And for some reason, I need to open the chapter again. And this is chapter 3. Okay, and we are discussing now supply. So again, the supply curve is upper sloping. The higher the price, the more we're willing to sell. We already discussed that. So changes in prices changes the quantities, right? There are other factors that can change the supply curve. And the thing that can change the supply curve is technology, factor cost, taxes and subsidies, expectations, changing the price of other products, and the number of sellers, right? And the number of sellers. I believe I forgot to tell you other goods, right? Let me explain why other goods can change the supply. Let's say that I am a tomato farmer. And my neighbor is a strawberry farmer. then I realized that the price of strawberries has going up and my neighbor is making a killing on the market. So what am I going to do next harvest season? Am I going to continue planting tomatoes? And the answer is no. So then the supply of tomatoes are going to decrease because I'm no longer going to plant tomatoes, and now I'm going to plant strawberries because that's where the real money is. So then the change in the price of other products can actually change the composition of the supply, right? So again, changing the price of other products can change the supply. So supply increases is shift to the right, and that can happen because of the factors that we discussed already. So this is only nothing more than a review. So then changes in supply are shifts in the line, and changes in quantity are movements on the same line, and those can only be created by changes in price, just like demand. Right? So movements on the same line can only be done by changes in quantity, in price, and shifts is because of the other factors. And again, I'm moving fast because this is a review. So when we put both of them together, then that's equilibrium price. The price of everything we buy is determined by the forces of supply and the forces of demand. Only at PE, or equilibrium price, demand and supply are equal. We have no excess, we have no surplus, we have no shortages. But what happens if we change the prices? How consumers respond? For example, if the price is too high, people buy less, producers produce more, and now we have a surplus. The quantity supply is larger than the quantity demanded. But if the price is too low, then we have a different situation because a lot of consumers want to buy this product, but producers don't want to sell it, so now we have a shortage. Okay? So then prices can be affected by changes in the curve. For example, what's going to happen to price if demand increases? If demand increases, the movement will be to the right, and we go and have a higher price. Right? What happens if demand decreases? Nobody wants to buy this product. Companies have no choice but lower the price. As you can see, then we go into a lower price. Now, what happens if supply changes? What happens to price if supply increases? Remember the example I told you about pizza? Well, more producers, lower price. But what happens if producers go out of business? Right? There will be a decrease in supply, and prices are going to go up. Now, what happens if the government intervenes and the government decides to artificially create different prices, like a price ceiling or a price floor? Okay? So as you can see, then the market by itself answers the questions of what, how, and for whom without government intervention. Because if the government intervenes and puts a price ceiling, what are we going to have? A shortage or a surplus? A shortage, right? Because the government says you cannot sell it for more than this, right? But what happens if the government puts a price floor? Well, now we have a what? A surplus. And guys, this is the end of the chapter. This is the end of the chapter. So let me stop the recording.